friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for my regular Monday this and that video. And if you're new to my channel, this is a weekly vlog that I do at the beginning of every week, just to let people know what's going on around here, to lead you back to some old specific videos I have on some of the things I'll be talking about, if I have them, to answer some questions that may have come in the past week or so, and whatever else I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today. Before I start, I wanted to show you, it's my new shirt. What this is a dandelion with, instead of the dandelion seeds, you know, little umbrellas, they're chickens. I thought it was pretty darn cute, and it added a summery look to my videos. So I've been trying to add more color to my videos, because normally what all I wear around the house for color is anything dark. Brown, black, gray, real boring stuff, because I can get pretty messy when I'm doing my various different things, so I don't wear white on a normal basis. So first, let's talk about the flowers I've got dehydrating today. Now, some of these were picked last night, and then some of them were picked this morning. So some of the ones that were picked last night might look a little peaked, like the calendula. So I just went ahead and picked it, put it on the tray, but didn't start the dehydrator because this time of year I run it all on the solar power. So I only do that during the day when we got plenty of solar coming in, and not to drain our batteries during the night. So the nasturtiums I did pick today, so I just started getting enough nasturtiums so I can start picking them and using them, dehydrating them for other purposes. I have an old video I did on nasturtium benefits and their uses. They have lots of uses. So if you're not already growing them, for a lot of people, nasturtiums can be pretty simple to grow. Anyway, I'll link to that video in the description box down below, but you'll see the different colors. Your basics, like your dark orange and your yellow, but this deeper red is actually a dwarf nasturtium. It's my favorite for color. It's so beautiful. But anyway, I also have a couple of recipes where I show using the nasturtium flowers. Like sometimes I'll ferment it just like cabbage, and it makes a delicious kimchi, because nasturtium flowers and leaves do kind of have a radishy type flavor. And then I also use it for our hair rinse vinegar, as there's one going right back there that I made with dried nasturtium flowers. And then I also infuse it in oil to use as a scalp treatment for my hair, to help with hair growth, because it's really good for that, along with other herbs. And I have a recipe video on that as well. I'll link to in the description box down below. So then I said the calendula, honeysuckle, and then a few little red clovers right there. So one of the many things going on my dehydrators today. And while I'm talking about dehydrating, some other stuff I picked last night. I'll be harvesting more stuff today. I was just trying to get a head start last night with some mojito mint. And even though for tea our favorite is the peppermint, I'm finding I'm liking the mojito mint more and more, especially when I'm wanting to take my cat mint, and same thing with catnip tea, for when I just need to calm down a little bit, or I'm a little stressed or anxious. I like mixing it with the mojito because it blends nicely with the catnip and the cat mint, so it makes a good flavor. But anyway, the main thing I wanted to show you that I tend to forget to mention in some of my dehydrating videos, when you're talking about things you're drying that are very lightweight, especially most of your herbs, what I do, a lot of you know I already make these little cloth covers out of old cotton material. This is actually all cotton sheets that I cut these out of, and obviously clean. And then I just cut them to fit my dehydrators. I have the square ones for this Kasori and my wood stove dehydrator. But when you're talking about your electric dehydrators and you have the fan and the heating element on the top, it's a really good idea to make sure that you put another piece of fabric over the top. What's going to happen is going to prevent those herbs from getting sucked up into that motor. And also, if you're like me and you're lifting it while it's still on and checking things, well, it can just pull a whole bunch of herbs off with it. So having that cloth over the top just prevents that from happening. So you only need it on the top tray, the one that's right below the top of the dehydrator. If your heating element and fan is on the bottom, you don't have to worry about that. It's not a big deal. But if it's on the top like all mine are, then yes, it's a good idea to put that cloth over the top. And it will still dry beautifully, because it's a very thin cotton, it's very breathable, and you know how sheets are, they dry quickly anyway, so I have no issues with that drying quite well. So some other things going on. Oh, I did finally shoot a new video on dehydrating ground meats, because I've evolved the way I do things when it comes to the meat and found a better way. So that video will be coming out in a few weeks, because I just shot it. But this was my first batch here that I made what has it been? It's about a month ago, and I did open this one up and taste it. Still delicious. So it's a dehydrated sausage where I left all the fat in there and everything, and so that's why it doesn't sound rattly like the ground beef does, where I take most of the fat out. But anyway, it tasted great. And I'm going to take this smaller jar because I found that 2 pounds, when I dehydrate it up, fits into 1.5 pint jars. Today I'm going to go ahead and make some Italian sauce, trying the dehydrated Italian sausage. So I'll give you an update on that in next week's This and That video to let you know how that turned out, if I don't forget, that is. So anyway, I'm pretty excited to finally try that. But I love the flavor of the dehydrated sausage, ground venison, ground beef, all that stuff when it's dried. Oh, so good. So it's hard to not want to just snack on it right out of the jar. Now, before I get into more gardening related stuff, let's cover some of these collaborations that have been going on. Now, I mentioned I already did get the craft collaboration put together. It's going to be publishing in, I think, about 2 weeks-ish. And then now I'm working on gathering photos for the fermentation collaboration. So what this is a collaboration with all my subscribers, people who've been following my videos and learning how to do various things and then starting to implement these. So the last one was more things that people crocheted or sewed based off my videos. And now this one is about things that you've fermented based off my videos. So if you've made any kind of fermentation, like maybe starting with the fermentation starter and then using that starter to make a natural homemade soda or wine like I have going back here, or kimchi, or any kind of fermented fruit or vegetable, or even fermenting eggs, whatever it is, or even bread. Take photos of what you've been doing, or if you've already taken photos, try to get the best quality photos you can. Get some good lighting, make sure there's no shadows or anything going over the picture, and then send those in to me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com. I would like to try to get this one done a little quicker than the craft one, so hopefully in a month I can have all the photos that I need to be able to put together the slideshow, and I think that'll be a fun one too. So if you're interested in any of my fermenting videos, I think I have a playlist just on that's just general fermenting, so you can go into that playlist, look through the list and see some of the various things that I have in there. And anyway, yeah, so lots of different stuff in there. While we're talking about collaboration, yes, I'm still needing more quilt squares. They're not coming in quite as fast as I thought they would, which is fine. I'm not in a big hurry to get to putting that quilt together because this is one of the busiest times of the year with the garden and the harvesting and the trying to weed and blah, blah, blah. But I think right now I'm up to 15 or 16 squares. And here's a picture of the most recent one that came in. Thank you for that. And thank you to everyone who's been donating squares. And just a real quick guidelines to this, if you're wanting to be a part, what I'm doing is a Rain Country Crazy quilt. And these are going to be squares that are made by my followers. Anyone who wants to participate, you don't have to, and don't feel guilty if you don't want to, or if you can't sew or you don't quilt. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. I just thought it would be something fun to have some kind of keepsake, that physical keepsake from my followers. So anyway, they're 10-inch completed squares, which means they got the front part that's been all put together however you want, any design you want, the backing, and then the batting, just a regular thinner batting, not a thick batting, and then have it quilted, and then the edges are all unfinished, and that is a 10-inch completed square, not 12-inch, not 8-inch, 10-inch completed. And because I've had a couple people send me in 12-inch squares, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to cut some of those off to get them to fit, or use them in a different project. We'll see. I hate to cut anything off of any of them. That would be sad. So make sure they're 10-inch when they're completed, not 12. And anyway, I'll be putting those together once I get enough. And even if it's, in fact, I'm thinking maybe I'll just shoot for doing a lap quilt, because I really don't need a quilt for our bed, because I already have my own quilts that I made out of denim. I have 2 on every bed in the house. And so a lap quilt, something I could keep in the living room, would be great. And I would love that. So once I get enough squares, but I think I figured out I need about 42 squares to make a decent sized lap quilt. 42 or 48, whatever my number was, I can't remember now. So right now at 15 or 16, I still am only a third of the way there. So anyway, if you're still interested in being a part, again, you can find you just send that to my post office box. That's Heidi Rain Country, and no, Rain Country is not my last name. You can address it to Heidi Rain Country or Rain Country Homestead, P.O. Box 816, Forks, Washington 98331, and you can also find that address in the description box down below with any of our other contact information. All right, now let's talk about a little bit about some gardening related stuff. So back here, I mentioned just a bit ago, what I actually have going is some rhubarb cider is what I need to start calling it, because that's more specific, because I don't let it ferment entirely into a wine. I keep it more of just a little bit sweeter flavor, and while it's still fizzy. So it's not really a true wine per se. So I wanted to cover that. I did actually do a video specifically on that. Now, I do have, if you're new, I do have a series. It's like a 4-part series on winemaking. So that's my thorough series right there. And some people don't understand, because I was using grapes to do that. They think they have to have a specific recipe for blackberry or elderberry or blueberry or whatever. The way you make it is the same. It doesn't matter what fruit you get your juice from. It's going to be the same. You might have different types of activity going on in there, but how you get it going is all the same. You can follow that same guideline. And then I have a video that's just about making mead, so that's considered a honey wine. And then I have one specific on what I was calling my rhubarb margarita wine, or cider. As I got to looking it up, I'm thinking that's actually closer to what I do here. Anyway, we got a family gathering coming, and I had some family asking, are you going to have the rhubarb cider this time? And I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I already have some made up, but I'll get another gallon going just in case. And so I had Jackson in here. He was here that day when I pulled the rhubarb out and was letting it thaw. And because I've been cutting it up and putting it in the freezer, because it's a lot easier to juice your fruits if you freeze them first. You're going to get a lot more juice out of them. And then put them in my press. And then I had Jackson helping me turn that thing, because he likes to jump in and help no matter what it is you're doing. So he was able to turn a few times before it got too hard for him to turn it without moving it. So anyway, I got that started, but I'll link to not only the full playlist of winemaking, but also specifically to the rhubarb margarita wine, and you'll find out why if you watch that video. I call it margarita wine. So in regards to the garden, thankfully now my rhubarb is starting to blow up again. It was doing that great until the colder weather moved back in for a while, and then it just stopped growing, and some of the leaves withered up and died. Now it's blowing up again like it should be, so I'm able to start harvesting it again, which is great. And I'm freezing more up for another batch down the road if I need to, so I'll have it ready to go. And then I mentioned in one of my last garden video, whether it was last week's this and that video or my deck garden video, I am finally getting peas now. I'm starting to see flowers on my beans, especially the ones that are in our covered area in the far back. It's the newest area that we've covered. So finally getting some flowers, late, but at least I'm getting flowers. Even though everything is about a month behind, at least we're finally starting to see some good activity going on out there. So we will still get a harvest of beans and peas and tomatoes. Seeing some tomatoes come on my plants. Oh, and the strawberries. My strawberries are ripening, but I think it's because of the cold weather. They're all very small this year. They're just really tiny. I'm seeing some finally starting to form that are starting to look more of a normal size. But I'm still saving them up, and I'm doing it the way that I do every year, which I do with any of my berries, whether it be my currants. Oh, by the way, currants are blowing up too. And Jackson loves those currants. He can eat them as fast as I can pick them for him. But I try to limit it because they'll give him a tummy ache. So the currants are doing great. But anyway, currants, blueberries, strawberries, any kind of berry that I'm picking, I will freeze them in pint-sized jars. You could also, sometimes I'll use quart jars. And that's how I do it. And the easy thing is to start with a pint-sized jar, and I just stick it in the freezer. And then when I pick some more, I pull that out, even if it's twice a day. And then for the strawberries, I'll just cut them up because I want to cram as many into the jar as I can. And then once I got that jar full, I'll put a lid on. I don't vacuum seal it or anything since I'm freezing it, and I stick it in the freezer. I have in my big freezer, I have a special place just for storing my strawberries and things like that. I don't use plastic bags. In fact, I have a video I shot, I haven't edited yet, about why I stopped using plastic, especially the food saver bags. Why I don't use that anymore, even though the glass does take up more room, is more expensive, at least it's reusable. If you do it right, it's reusable. Unlike the food saver bags that you can, sometimes anymore, they're so cheaply made. You can only get one use, but also just getting away from the plastic in general. So be watching for that video to come out in a few weeks. But I do also have a video out that is a few years old now about freezing in mason jars, especially when you're talking liquids, and the way to do it to prevent your jars from breaking. Oh, and you probably see I got some valerian flowers out here. One thing about valerian, I leave the flowers when I can, because now I sell the seeds on my store, so I need them to mature. But the problem with valerian is actually sometimes it's worse when they get this big around, because they do this. The stalks will get this big around because they're hollow, and they can get kind of heavy on top. And this was just a short, lightweight one. It doesn't take much for them to fall over and break off. And so, especially if you get a lot of rain. And so when that happens, what I do is I bring those in and I take off the flowers and the leaves, and then just go ahead and dehydrate them, because I use the valerian leaves and flowers in my pain remedy that I did recently have to use because I had some kind of pinched nerve or something going on in my back, and boy, that stuff worked great. And I do have that more recent recipe video out, which I think I also provided a link to in a written form, and I'll link to that video down below. So anyway, that's why these are out. So I'm gonna, since that other tray was kind of full with the flowers, I'm gonna start another tray of flowers and put the valerian leaves and flowers on there as well. Maybe even go harvest a few more leaves to stick on there, because I do like to keep that valerian on hand. I prefer using the leaves and the flowers when I don't need something super strong, and it's got a better flavor and it works really well. But if you need it to be super strong and you're not highly sensitive to it, the roots are really great for that too. But they smell bad, and they don't taste as good as the flowers and the leaves. But you can also eat these fresh when you need to. I've done that too. I've picked them fresh. The leaves in particular, when I just needed something to take the edge off whatever, whether it be anxiety or pain, and it helps quite a bit. All right, and then one more thing I wanted to mention is that Patrick has done a couple videos on a Reolink camera that they were kind enough to send us one. You know, Patrick reached out to them and was talking to them, so they sent us a camera, and now they're actually sending us another one. So that was just really generous of them. But anyway, yesterday we got the new one in, but we still have to get our new SIM card in for it. So it's going to be a bit before we get to shooting the video specifically on that. But yesterday, because when Patrick set up the first camera, he couldn't remember what his password is. So I could not log in from my phone or from my computer. So what we had to do was we had to go get the camera, reset it, take it completely back to factory settings, and we were still having a hard time connecting. I couldn't connect from anything to the camera, and we're like, great, what did we do? What I figured out we needed to do, so if this ever happens to you and you get some, and this might apply to any brand security camera, but I know specifically for the Reolink, is that I had to go in, after we reset it, I actually had to go into the apps on our phones, and not just delete the camera from the app, but delete the whole app, and then download it and start it again. And then I was able to set the password, one that I know we'd both remember, and then get everything going. So now I have access to the camera, as does he, and I can also access it from our computer, which is nice because I can see it on a much bigger screen what's going on down there. And then we'll have another one that we're either going to put out at that second piece of property or here at the house. We haven't decided yet. But anyway, we'll do reviews on that down the road once we get it all set up. And I'm actually pretty happy with that, with the Reolink. I love the ease of access, and that's why we had to switch from Verizon to T-Mobile. And we actually ended up getting a better deal going that way, you know, because we get more for our money than what we were getting through Straight Talk. And it was Straight Talk, not Verizon, but they run off the same towers, and we actually get better service than Verizon. It's funny because right after we made that change, everybody in our area started having issues with Verizon, which for years and years and years was the only provider that actually worked out here. And now T-Mobile works better out here than Verizon does. Isn't that funny? So anyway, yeah, we're pretty happy with it, and it's nice to just have that added security. So if we wanted to see what's going on at the property, we can just connect through our phones or the computer to the camera or cameras if we do put more out there, and just see what's going on. And then of course we get the alerts, and so now I get the alerts every time anything moves. You know, you can adjust the settings, but I'll link you back to the 2 different videos Patrick has out so far on the Real Link if you'd like to learn more about it. And I'll also put the link to to both the cameras that we have now down below. It's the Real Link Go is the one that we've been using, and so far very happy with it. The other one's a little fancier. I guess it has a pan and tilt option that you can also operate from your device, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, if you're wanting to add some more security, and we did find you could get a pretty good price for a full set with the solar panel to keep it powered up on Amazon. So I'll put the Amazon link down below. All right, well, anyway, please share more about your different things going on in your garden, good or bad. It's kind of interesting to see this total mix where some people are having extremely hot weather, some people are having very cold weather, some people are way ahead, some people are way behind, and some people have fruit trees just up and dying out of the blue for no apparent reason. These are kind of interesting things, and it helps us to sort of think ahead to our next gardening years and the possible struggles we may be having and how to counteract those or make up the difference anyway. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my this and that for the week. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.